So how do you lead by example every single day? Will become the embodiment of what it is that you want other people to be, right? How you handle setbacks, how you handle challenges, how you handle problems. The people you lead are looking at you at every single moment. Everything you do is now seen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. I am your host, Jeffrey Pinzon, and today joining us is someone who truly embodies the spirit of resilience, determination, leadership, and hard work. Joining us today is Leo Robles, who he is a transformational leadership coach, a speaker, a phenomenal speaker. We just had him at our Go Heavy event this past January. He killed it, added a ton of value to our audience. And he's also a real estate mogul who has gone through numerous of challenges, obstacles, tribulations in his career. And because of that, he's been able to create a successful story for himself and his family. Today, he's going to be sharing with us his powerful insights and strategies on how to build a successful business and how to unleash your power, how to take your life to the next level. So get ready, sit back, enjoy this episode, and get ready to be inspired by Leo Robles. So, my man.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby. Thank you for joining us today,
Thank
brother.
you so much, man. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you coming, man.
I'm very grateful, man, for the opportunity to be here. Thank you also for the opportunity to invite me to the Go Heavy event, man. It means the world. And I'm all about adding value, man. And that's exactly what you embody, man. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I remember we spoke the night before the event, and I'm like, man, Leo, I want your very best. Your
Like the very best. I'm,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
din. I'm like, okay, I will. I'm going to bring the heat. I'm going to bring the heat, man.
You
Yeah,
definitely
thank
did
you.
because I
Thank
watched
you.
a lot of your keynote speaking engagements, and that one was powerful, man. I know a lot of
Appreciate you.
people got a ton of value, but let's jump right into it, Leo. So our audience, people that don't know you yet, so they could get to know you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? Who's Leo, and who was Leo back in high school?
Yeah.
Let's take it way back.
All right, cool, man. Well, I mean, if I go back all the way to high school, I was actually extremely introverted, right? I was not like now everybody, you know, I'm on cameras all the time. I'm speaking on stages, but I mean, if you knew me in high school, I was very to myself. I only had a small group of friends around me. And I honestly was not into school that much. So I had my friends, and then I would ditch a lot, to be honest. I was skipping school a lot. And so, you know, I just knew that I wanted to do more with my life. And my dad has always, you know, basically had us work, and not he forced us, but, you know, I've always wanted to have money in my pocket. So my dad's like, well, if you want money in your pocket, you're going to have to go to work. So every weekend I would go work construction. During the summer, I would work construction. And during the construction experience is when I actually was inspired by someone to do real estate. So I knew already, even at high school, that I wanted, and this was like my last year of senior year. I knew I wanted to be in real estate. So I was not too fond of school. I mean, I just, you know, connected with a couple of the basics, but I knew I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. And it was actually one of my high school teachers' first day of my senior year that basically inspired me to drop out. He was like, you know, there was about 45 students in the room. Everybody was being rowdy. You know, senior year, you know, everybody kind of hangs out and parties it up, basically. So he just said, like, look, if you guys just listen to what I'm going to say here for like a minute. He said, everybody stop, you know, be quiet. And we all got quiet, and we're like, what is he going to say? And he basically said, like, look, if you guys are going to go to college, senior year is not don't waste this year. He's like, you're going to set yourself back in college so much if you waste your time in senior year. He's like, don't get distracted. Stay in tune with what you need to do so you can get prepared. But if you're not going to go to college, get the fuck out of here. Like, he literally just said, get out of here. Like, what are you doing here? Stop wasting your time. Don't lie to your parents. And so I took that to heart. I was like, wait, I feel like this guy's talking to me, because I already knew what I wanted to do. So I walked out. I literally walked out, and I went back home, and I told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm dropping out of high school. And he's like, no, you can't. Like, you got to get your diploma. Like, that's at least what I want you to do, man. Like, you know, you're like the first one in the family to get that diploma. Like, I don't want to do it. So I ended up figuring out how to get my diploma, which is home studies. So I got home studies, and I started working construction. And as soon as I wasn't even 18 to get my license yet, so I started working as an intern at a real estate office as an assistant. And then a little bit after 18, I got my license after a couple of challenges, actually even passing it. I was not, again, I'm not a huge fan of school, so I was already making money as an intern.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it was the test taking, day was there, I would study like a day before. So, bro, it took me 6 times
Wow.
to pass the exam. Like, so I was, and that, again, right, the resilience was there, and my attitude was, as soon as I failed, let me go and schedule it again. I would schedule it immediately again, over and over and over. And I said, like, look, I said, is there a limit? I even Googled it. I was like, is there a limit on how many times you can pass it? I didn't find any information about that. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep taking it. I'm going to keep taking the exam. And I got it, 18 years old. And that's when I started my career in real estate. But just to kind of, just encapsulate high school, it's just more about, I would say, preparing me to do what I just don't have a lot to share about that. I mean, I partied a lot, man. And I wasted a lot of time when I was there. So for me, right, I'm not saying everybody should, but for me, going the college route and all that stuff, it didn't resonate with me. I knew that right away. I went to like how they have the college days where they come out and they teach you like, okay, you can do this. Right. So I went and talked to everybody in all these different fields. But I was very money driven. So I was like, hey, Jeffrey, like, what do you do? Oh, this is for this kind of career, this kind of career, this kind of career. And my question was like, oh, cool. Well, how much money do you make, when you were done? And they're like, oh, well, like 80,000 or 70,000. And like, yeah, no.
That was exciting for you.
No, not at all. So I would figure out what it took to get there. And the average like college was like 4 to 6 to 8 years. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to waste my time doing all that. The only thing that really came close to my like quote unquote financial dreams was an attorney. So I'm like, maybe I'll become an attorney. But the next question I asked, well, how long is it going to take for me to
8 to 10 years?
Exactly, bro. So you already know the drill, man. And so I was like, no, I don't want to wait that long.
So who did you see that inspired you in the real estate space that you were like, man, this is the route that I want to take. Because you failed the test 6 times. So you continue moving forward and scheduling that test every single time that you failed it. Like what motivated you to keep going?
Yeah. It was the gentleman's name, and I'm going to give him his name. His name was George Nieto. He's the one that actually inspired me to do real estate. And I was working at his home on a construction job and basically pick and shovel, 110 degrees outside, Rancho Cucamonga, beautiful car in the driveway, nice house. And I'm over here pick and shovel, man, like hard labor work. And this guy walks out with a nice suit and again, car, house, he's installing a pool in his backyard. It's like $100,000. I was like, wow, this guy, for me, like this guy has it all, right? Like everything I wanted as a 16-and-a-half-year-old or whatever I was at the time. So I mustered up the courage to ask him, after a couple of days of being there, every day he was dressed sharp as a tack. So I asked him like, hey, sir, I said, what do you do for a living? And he said, I actually do real estate. And that was like light bulb, right? That was it. I'm like, okay, I want that. I want that lifestyle. And the next question that was really important for me, how long did it take you to get into real estate? It's easy. It's like 3 months. I'm like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to make money and I want that lifestyle. I want 3 months. Let's go. So he said, like, look, the studying of the test and you getting a license, like that's easy. He said, but the one thing that you really want to get and develop is your mindset. And I said, what's that? That was the first time I ever heard the word mindset, right? And now it's a common term. Everybody talks about it all the time. But for me, it was like discovering like something, I don't know, like, like a huge discovery. Mindset. I'm like, what's that? And he says, and I was like, how do I develop my mindset? And he said, well, go to a website called nightingale.com. It's still around, right? Nightingale.com. And I said, well, what book should I buy? Anyone. Like buy anything that resonates with you, anything that stands out to you. So he didn't, like, I really appreciated the fact that he didn't tell me, like, do this one. He said, like, just go on there, pick any, which is really important, right? Because we think that there's one book or one curriculum that we're going to do, and that's going to change our life, but it's not. It's a combination of multiple things. And interesting enough, the first audio, because I actually bought the CDs, it wasn't even an actual book. It was a course. It was called The Law of Attraction with Esther Hicks.
Esther Hicks, yeah.
So that was the first thing I heard. And honestly, I didn't understand none of it. I didn't understand none of it. I didn't, what are they talking about? And I would fall asleep to it. Like days out. I'm like, but I listened to what he said. It's like, okay, I'm going to develop my mindset. And then I also bought this other course called the Silva Ultra Mind System. That's another
powerful book, man. Yeah,
bro, it really slows down your mind, the brain patterns. I mean, so again, I was learning stuff that I didn't really know what I was learning, but it changed me, right?
Wow.
That changed me, very early on. And then the first book that I bought was a call, because again, I went to the Barnes and Noble. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy a book. I'm like, let's see which one stands out. The first one I see on the shelf in the personal development section was Unlimited Power with Tony Robbins. I'm like, I want to have unlimited power. I want to have unlimited power. So I picked up that book and I read it, man, and it was life changing for me because of this. And it was one sentence right away within the first couple of pages. And Tony was sharing his story about this 18-year-old that became a millionaire. And that was the first time that I heard that you can become a millionaire at such an early age. So when I heard that as a possibility, I was like, oh, like I could become a millionaire then.
Right.
Because I read it in this book. So it just talks about like how much concepts and ideas and the things that you hear, how much that impacts your mind, right? And, we hear this all the time. Once the mind stretches, it can't contract. That was the new reality for me. I was like, okay, as an 18-year-old, you could do it. So that became my first thing. And Tony said the first thing, write your goals out. I didn't even have a notebook. I didn't have any of that stuff out. And I didn't believe it was going to work, but I'm going to just write it down. I wrote down I wanted to make 100,000. I wanted a BMW. I wanted the nice suits. I wanted to become an investor specialist. And then I forgot about it. I just put the shoebox away, forgot about it, found it a couple of years later. And the really cool thing is that everything that I wrote down actually became a reality. Everything that I wrote down. The other thing I did was also develop a vision board. Because I learned that from The Secret, right? And I heard Oprah talking about The Secret, so I watched the video and I put together a vision board, and that was super cool because that was the first time I actually put my vision onto like a map in a way. And when I looked at it, I was like, man, I don't even know. Like my inner voice, right? How are you gonna do that?
Right.
Like
thinking starts creeping.
Yeah,
in, right?
yeah. It's like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Who are you?
Right. Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm like. And honestly, it was nervous for me to put it down. I didn't even want to share it with nobody because I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, what if, even the family, somebody in my family actually saw it, and I even had a blank check for like $1 million, and they're like, dude, that's never gonna happen. It's like, so the first time I ever exposed it, I was like, oh man, like people are, so I learned right away. I'm like, look, I'm not gonna share, but that became like my default setting, kind of out of survival. Not the version of myself that you see now. I'm very expressive, but I hadn't developed myself enough to understand that like you could share it. And at that time I wasn't developed enough. I wasn't strong enough. When I share my goals and I told somebody and then they kind of shied away, it kind of like hit me hard. It hit me really hard because I wasn't developed enough. So I think in the early stages, right, when you're developing yourself, and if you haven't developed yourself enough, you got to kind of keep your goals, write them down, keep them to yourself, and expose it to only people that that are also about possibility, that are about goals. Because if you expose it to people that are not about goals, then you're going to be a mirror and a reflection of like the things that they're not doing, and then they're gonna be like, yeah, whatever, dude, you're not going to do it, because they're just sharing their inner judgment of themselves in a way. So I learned that right away. I was like, okay, I keep it to myself. And honestly, my motto, bro, in the beginning was it's me against the world. That was my motto in the very beginning. Right. And it was like, I wouldn't share nothing. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I'm like, and my dad, right, he's old school Latino, he's like, don't trust anybody. So that was one of my mottos. Like, I'm not going to trust nobody. So that's, I just want to give you contrast, right? Like that's how I started up, and for me to be on a stage, for me to speak like this, I didn't even have that as a possibility, as a thought. Right. So the only thing I want to leave, right, like this thought with is like, wherever you're at, it doesn't define you, right? Like you can create the version of yourself where you want to go, and it's going to take time. Yeah. It's going to just take time to develop. You just got to
put in the work, right?
You got to put in the work.
I think it's huge that you got into personal development at such a young age, right? You got I just started reading the Dr. Silva method probably like about 6 months ago. Or
Yeah.
so it's a powerful book, man. It teaches you about meditation, memory, how to be in the zone, how to stay focused.
Yes.
Those are powerful books. Right now, you got into a new way of thinking, right?
Mhm.
How did that challenge come with the new way of thinking and the old way of thinking? What were some challenges in the process of you getting your license and making your first paycheck? Like, what were some setbacks that you encounter in that process? Because
Yeah.
it's a challenge, because now you're leaving your old self for creating
Yeah.
that better version of Leo.
Correct.
So it's a battle right there.
Right. Especially, it's a battle inner, like it's your inner battle,
Correct.
and then it's also the environment that you're born into, right?
Mhm.
Our family and our friends, and the city that we're in. All of those individuals are part of your old version of yourself. So the challenge was me having this new possibility, and I didn't really have a lot of people to share it with. I didn't really have a community, right? So it's really important to have a community, because they will hold you accountable and they remind you, right? When you have committed listeners, like have people that are listening to you bigger. So I didn't really have that right away, but I mean, I started off my business, and I've always been very energetic, very optimistic, and I just went out there, and like, this was my first piece of coaching, by the way, in real estate. And I think a lot of people, they overthink stuff nowadays. I mean, everything's so available for us. When I started in the business, I mean, there was not really a lot of information online that you can just go and, oh, let me find out how to become a top producer or stuff like that. I didn't have any of that stuff. And I asked my broker, what do I do? So go talk to people. What do I say? Ask them if they want to buy or sell. And what do I do next? Have them sign this contract. Here, I'll highlight the areas for you. That was my piece of training.
Wow.
That was my training curriculum. Like, and that's how I went out into the world. And then and it's like, but what if I don't know the answers? Write them down. Write down the questions and bring them back to me. So I would go and come back, and then I've always asked a bunch of questions. So I asked a question. I ended up making almost 100,000, man, within my first year of the business. So I did extremely well.
At 18.
Yeah, at 18, right before I was 19 years old.
Wow.
I got a home as well, because I was inspired by my mentor that, hey, you should buy a home, and then you could flip it a couple months later and make all this money. And that sounded like a fantastic idea, because it went in alignment with my vision board. I wanted to become an investor specialist. I wanted to become somebody that can flip properties and all that stuff. So I made the money. I got the house, and I bought the Mercedes-Benz. I got the suits. I went to, I don't know where, and I got like 5 or 6 suits. And, so I had everything. I had everything that I had envisioned and I had imagined, and that was great. And even all my high school buddies that were starting college, like, they were always going to my house. I mean, like, everybody was there. And the one thing I didn't have at that time, I didn't have enough awareness. I didn't have a work ethic. It was during a time where the business was extremely easy, right? This was 2005, so you basically had a heartbeat, and you can fog a mirror, you can buy a house. So I stepped into that environment. So I thought, like, wow, real estate
like
is so easy.
Yeah.
It's exactly everything I thought. I thought it was so, like, I got the lifestyle now, and I made money really quick. I'm like, this is so cool. So, I wanted to hold on to the house for 6 months, and then basically from there, make like $100,000, because that's what my broker had done. And then the market, unfortunately, started going down, right? So I was like, well, I don't know what to do. Then my broker was like, they were like, they didn't really give me some good, I mean, again, right, the kind of information they were giving me, they didn't really know what was happening either. And they were involved in lending and all kinds of stuff. And a couple months later, I mean, my income went to zero. I mean, I couldn't afford my Mercedes-Benz payment. It was a lease, $320 a month. I couldn't even afford that anymore. My income went to zero. So I dodged the tow truck for weeks, probably like a month or more than that. And I would put it in the garage, and, eventually they found it and they took it.
Wow.
So my car was repossessed out of my driveway. And a couple weeks later, I got this notice on my door, notice of trustee sale. That was the first time I've ever seen something like that. We're going to go into foreclosure. I was like, wait, what? Because I wasn't making my payments, right? So as soon as I got that notice, I just walked out. I just went back with my dad, and my dad's business also was impacted significantly. He was in construction again, right? Everybody was devastated. But the crazy thing is that I only thought that our family was going through this stuff. I didn't know that a lot of people were going through the same stuff that we were going through. I'm like, I'm the only pendejo that did this, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing? So the house was foreclosed. My dad also lost his house, unfortunately, because he couldn't afford it anymore either. He bought it like $1 million house. And we moved into a rental property. And then from this rental property, I mean, the guy actually lost the house 3 months later.
Wow.
After we rented it.
So you guys had to move out.
We had to move out again. We moved out to like this house that was only like 1,500 square feet. And my dad had a 5,000 square foot house. So all of the stuff was in the outside of the house. And it would rain. All the furniture that they had bought got ruined. But long story short, man, in 1 year, 6 times got evicted, kicked out of houses back to back. I didn't know about short sales. I didn't know to check title. I didn't know that I could have done other stuff. So,
what was going through your mind at that moment, seeing all those setbacks?
This is it. I'm done.
Having the lifestyle that you wanted, the Mercedes.
Yeah.
You're getting into investing. You have the shoes. You have the lifestyle, and now, in the blink of
all
an eye,
done,
it's
bro.
done.
Yeah, I thought my life was over. I really thought my life was over. I really thought it was over. I've always been into fitness. I stopped working out, and like I felt like into what I call like the closest thing I get is to depression. I was so sad. I didn't want to wake up out of bed in the morning, and the only motivation I had was to keep my cell phone on. So I would go work a couple of days with my dad and just pay my cell phone. But it was difficult, and I tell people this all the time. You know, when you don't have money, it's cool. You don't know what it's like to have money, but when you have a taste of lifestyle like that, again, right? Once the mind stretches, oh my God, it's so difficult, right? So it's devastating. Yeah. So from there, I went back to construction and I started working there. And I had a massive pity party, man, for like a year. I hated life in a huge way, man. And my brother just got tired of me complaining about everything. I became like this really negative person. And personal development,
out the door.
Whatever. That shit doesn't work.
That shit doesn't work, yeah.
Forget that shit. Writing stuff down.
Why am I even reading these books?
Like these books, look what happened. I was extremely resentful. But my brother got tired of my shit. And one day he's like, we're buying construction materials at this Home Depot, and we're talking, and then he says, why don't you just get back into real estate? And I was like, hell no. Like, what do you mean get back into real estate? Like, have you seen like what happened to us? He's like, well, I mean, maybe it's different now. So I stopped at Home Depot on McKinley. There was right there in Corona, City of Corona, there is a Remax office. Mm-hmm. So after we bought the materials, let me just go walk into that office. I walked in, the gal on the front desk, greeted me, really nice. And I said, can I talk to the manager, broker? She's like, yeah, let me check with them. So I sat down on a chair, like a nice chair like this. And he took me in his office like within about 5 minutes, and as soon as I walked in his office, I mean, this guy who's like, his whole back of his desk filled with books, nice desk, cufflinks, watches. I mean, the suit. I mean, the guy charismatic. Like right away, before he opened his mouth, I already knew this guy was like powerful. Like this guy was like, damn, like he inspired me. And as soon as he opened his mouth, he's like, hey, well, what brings you in? And I said, I'm kind of thinking of getting back into the business. And I shared all my pity party story. And he's like, all right, well, unfortunately, sorry to hear that happen. He's like, but do you want to succeed in real estate? I said, yeah. He's like, because it doesn't matter what happened in your past. I said, you can choose now. I said, if you follow everything I tell you, you can become successful. He's like, I've been through 4 cycles in my career.
Wow.
So he said, if you follow what I'm going to tell you to do right now, you could make money. I said, all right. And so he believed, and he's like, look, and he's like, I think you could do it.
What year was this deal?
This was 2008.
Also, right before the market crash.
I think it was already at this time crashed, bro. Like,
right,
it had crashed. I had burned with it already.
Yeah.
It was like at the bottom of it. But this guy was at his office, and he just told me, yeah, it's like, I think you would do good at it. So he believed in me. And his belief in me, I started to believe in myself again. But I was honest with him. I said, like, hey, man, it's like, I am broke. I don't have any money. I can't even pay my MLS. And he said, well, he's like, you are going to need the MLS. And it's like, and we also have a monthly fee. So, you know, that's the way those are essentials. So I said, okay, well, give me 3 months. I said, give me 3 months and I'll come back. As soon as I am able to come up with some money, I will pay for my MLS and I'll sign up for the office. He said, okay. So October of 2008 is when it was 3 months later when I stepped into his office. I signed up and there I go. I started off, sat down with this gal named Joan Ship. She was in the business like 45 years.
No.
And she started just teaching me contracts. And my commission was, I think, like 40 or 50% for the first 3 deals because under the mentor program. So I did that and started learning from her, started learning from him, and I would meet with him weekly. And right away, I started to just apply everything he told me. But the first lesson he told me was go around the office and ask anybody what you could do to help them. That's what I did. So I knocked on the door, and said, like, no, we don't need any help. Knock on another door, we don't need any help. Knocked on door number 3, and there was a guy named Dave Larson, and he had a bunch of homes from the banks, like REOs. And he's like, you know what? The banks forced me to do open houses, so he's like, I can't keep up. I have like 100 plus properties in my inventory.
Wow.
Can you please do them for me? I'm like, absolutely. I said, I'll do it. I'll help you with it. And I'm like, I'm bilingual. I can help you with the other clients, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, cool. So he let me borrow his signs because I didn't even have signs. And I just started doing open house. And I made a promise to me that I would do an open house until I became successful. I made a decision in that moment because I was like, this is my only strategy. I said, and I'm not going to stop until I become successful. And that's what I did. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I did open houses every single day.
Wow.
Every single day. And dude, every day that I got back into the business, I mean, it wasn't easy and all sunshine and rainbows. Every day I wanted to quit again. Every day I wanted to stop. Every day I wanted to throw in the towel because I wasn't making any money. And I got back in and I saved up some money right from construction. But sure enough, about 4 months into it, doing open houses every day, working with different clients. Financing was very difficult during that time. So I had an escrow that almost was going to close and it fell out. Almost, was going to close, it fell out.
Emotional roller coaster.
Oh,
my God.
Lending was a mess during that time. Nobody, like, it wasn't like before, like where you had a heartbeat and qualify for anything. Like, this is like, you had to jump through all these hoops, and FHA was taking like 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
It was crazy. So I actually went to my broker 4 months in, about 4 or 5 months into it. I was ready to quit. I was like, look, I have no money. I literally ran out of gas. I ran out of gas on the freeway, and I had to get picked up my tow truck, and that was the last money I had. And I went to his office. I said, thank you so much for everything. I said, but I can't keep going. I said, I want to, but I can't. I said, I've done everything you told me to do. I showed up every day. I'm doing open houses every day. I asked what people can do to help them. I did all of it. And he said, what if I lend you some money? And I said, that would be great. I said, how much do you think you need? I said, $2,000. And he says, I'll give you $1,000. How about that? So he wrote a check for me for $1,000, and I go cash it, and that lasted me another 2 months. And I got my first transaction closed in 2000, like it was 2009 now.
You were 3 feet from gold, man.
Oh, bro, closed that deal, and my net check was $254 net. Prices were really low, right? I owed Remax 6 months, and I owed my broker $1,000.
Deductions.
So I got all of that stuff, and on top of that, my commission again, it was only like 40%, right? So I it was $254, but for me, that check could have been $1 million for me.
Yeah,
it was $1 million check for me because I was exhilarated because I was like, wow,
100%.
I got a check, and this, like, I did it. I said I was gonna do it, and I did it. It wasn't even about the money.
Yeah.
It was like I did it. I got money out of this machine that I wanted to work in. I'm like, it's there.
Heck yeah.
So that gave me so much confidence. And out of all those open houses, man, I had so much momentum, so many clients that I was working with now. I met, from there, one of my open houses, I met an investor that became like my number one client, man. I didn't even know that he was wealthy or anything like that. He went into one of my open houses, and he started to share that, he's an investor. I'm like, all right, cool. I've never even met an investor like that. Yeah. I'm like, okay. So just that one guy, man, out of this open house too, I followed up with him a day later. He gave me an opportunity to go visit him at his office and go talk to him. He didn't want to buy any of my properties, but he had 3 homes that he had bought at an auction. at auction.com. He had bought these homes and stuff, and he said that he was going to put them on the market. And I asked him, like, well, who's going to list them for you? And he said, well, I think I have somebody. I'm like, can I help you with them? Never had done listings either. Never had done listings, but he gave me an opportunity, man. He gave me an opportunity to list the properties, put them on the market. I sold them right away, and then from there, I mastered investments, like how to find these deals. Found a website called Property Radar, and I started going to the auctions and all that stuff. And then, for that one client, in the next like 5 years, I sold 550 homes just for that one client.
550 homes?
Yeah,
for one client.
One client.
Incredible.
Yeah, we're averaging 60 to 70 home sales every single year. So went from that to like exploding without an REO account. I never had an REO account. Like,
that's crazy, guys.
yeah.
From getting that one client, right? Your morale just went through the roof.
Yeah.
And because your morale was high enough, you were able to be in that peak state to attract that client, to bring them into your life, man. That's powerful.
Yeah, bro.
That's
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I mean, and honestly, when I had the listings and all that stuff, I didn't know what had happened. I mean, I was just like riding the wave. I was just so excited. I was just so grateful. So what I'm very grateful for about my journey, all of that pain, all of that suffering, it made me extremely humble. It humbled me. That was my best college. It was. I understood and I learned a life lesson right away. Like, like it's nothing. Everything is gonna pass, right? I learned this from a book I just recently. I mean, I read it a couple years ago, but is a statement. It says, "This too shall pass." But I learned that without knowing the statement. This too shall pass. So whenever something's good, this too shall pass. Something's bad, this too shall pass. So it's a really good like statement to have close to you whenever you're going through difficult moments or even going through a high. This too shall pass, right? Because when I get present to that, it gets me connected to the moment and extreme gratitude for whatever I'm going 100%. Through. And I know that another belief that I have is that everything always happens for me. Everything is always happening for me.
Not to you.
Yeah, it's not happening to me. It's happening for me. So then when I'm going through a difficult moment, I'm like, okay, what is this teaching me? What am I supposed to be learning? And I become extremely vigilant of what is happening. So I'm like, okay, who's around me? And I start to learn. Because our environment is always giving us the answers. All the answers are around us at all times. We just have to access them. And I tell people this all the time too. It's like success is already yours. You just have to get out of the way. Everything you want is already here. The financial success, the life of your dreams. It's already there. You just have to get out of your way. You have to get out of the way. Allow all of the abundance that's yours to show up. And you have to get rid of like limiting beliefs, blind spots. It might be switching environments, and there's just so many different things, right? But you have to have that mindset of, I'm gonna figure this out. This is gonna pass, and gratitude. A lot of gratitude, man. A lot of gratitude for my journey.
Absolutely, man. And through these journeys, through these obstacles, like there's so many lessons and blessings that you're getting in the process that is creating that better version of yourself. And I love what you said. This too shall pass, and that humbles you because. The success is going to pass. The failure is going to pass. As long as you keep moving forward, right? As long as you keep putting that one step ahead of the other. So let me ask you this on that now. Now that you've gotten success in real estate, and you touched on something huge that I remember when I started my career in sales and alarms. It was the same way. Like, here's a clipboard. Here's some houses. Go knock on the doors. Tell them if they want security system, and boom. That was my training, right?
Yeah.
Today's DNA, today's new era, we have training for everything. Training galore, right?
Oh.
So, what do you think, in your experience, in your opinion, what do you think realtors are lacking now that because they have all this in their disposal, they're not taking advantage of it? What do you think is some of the stuff that they're missing out on that could take them to the next level?
It's a great question. And I can answer it so many different ways, right? Because like a lot of thoughts are going through my mind. It's really about, I think what gets in the way for a lot of real estate agents and just people in life, man, we get in our own way. Again, right? And I made a video about this the other day. Knowing doesn't make an absolute difference. Doesn't make a difference at all. We all know what we need to do to have a perfect body. Like, we eat less, We eat nutritious foods.
Eat less, move more.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We exercise, right? Like we drink more water. We all know what we need to do to have a perfect body, or a great, healthy, vibrant body. We all know how to become successful because the information is there. We all know what it takes to have a great relationship, right? Communicate, like we all know. But their knowing doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Everything is accessible and available. So then what does make a difference is you identifying, again, what's in the way, what's the blind spot that you have, and what's the unconscious pattern that you're running that is keeping you trapped in whatever scenario of life you're being trapped in, right? For a lot of people that are going into the business of real estate, especially for newer people or even people that have been in the business a couple of decades, I think that EQ, emotional intelligence, is something that people need to develop. That needs to be a staple of the baseline of their career, because if you're not emotionally intelligent, then that's going to be a very difficult journey. Because again, IQ is, everybody can develop IQ. You can read a book. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. But EQ, right? When you get knocked down, when things become difficult, when you get the difficult clients, when the market shifts, like it always does, right? When the interest rates go up or they go down, or there's less inventory, there's more inventory, there's foreclosures, there's no foreclosures, there's, whatever. It's always going to change. So the one thing I think that people are missing is that they need to go and develop themselves. It could be through books. For me, a great seminar that I took was called Landmark. Landmark changed my life. That course changed my life, the fundamental, because it helped me to identify my blind spots of where I was in my own way. And when I did, I mean, the course is only 3 days. I did the course, and in 3 days I walked out with a blank slate. Like, and then now, no matter what happens, all the changes, it's almost like you become unstoppable. And it's not like an ego thing. I'm unstoppable. No, unstoppable. Like you're not stopped by the setbacks. You're not stopped by the failures. You're not stopped by any of those things. It leaves you in action constantly, right? So I would say people need to develop themselves, whatever course they want to do, and that's going to help them to come back from the setbacks faster, right? Because again, like I shared earlier, right, it took me a year for me to be in a pity party. I could have got over that shit in a day. Right now, when something happens, I fail, I can get over it in a day.
Yeah.
Because I know now that the only thing that makes a difference for my life and my success is me being back in action. Like I have to get back on the court. No matter how much I dwell and I cry and I suffer, it ain't going to change it. It ain't going to change nothing. So I just need to get back on the court and then just keep one foot in front of the other. So I just think that's what people get in their own way. They need to develop themselves emotionally. And they also need, like I said, a community of people that are about growth, because that makes a big difference too. Huge difference.
You touched on community and accountability. Like, how has that impacted your success? Was that a support for your blind spots? Can you share some of the blind spots that you had you had to look at? Like, oh shoot, this is where I'm lacking at. Like, I need to step up right here.
Yeah, I mean, people like throughout my life, people have made a profound impact in my life. Like, my first person was George, right? George Nieto. He helped me to identify, hey, mindset. Then Harold came around, and Harold said, actually, he taught me, one of the first lessons he taught me was, I asked him, he asked me, what are your goals? I said, I'm gonna try to sell, 3 homes this month. He said, interesting. You're gonna try to sell 3 homes? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try to sell 3 homes. He's like, that's awesome. And he takes out this beautiful pen from his pocket, and he puts it on the desk, and he says, try to grab that pen. And I said, what do you mean? It's like, try to grab the pen. Okay, I'm going to grab the pen. And so I was confused. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, exactly. He's like, you don't try anything.
You just do it.
Either you do it or you don't, right? So, people, and those are little things. I think for a lot of people, you got to pay attention to those little moments, man. Those little moments are moments that define, right? So for me, I had the word try as a very, that was a blind spot for me. Oh yeah, I'm going to try it. But from that moment forward, I never tried anything. Either I knew I did it or I didn't do it. I was committed or I wasn't committed enough. So what did that do? It got me back in the driver's seat. It got me back in the driver's seat. I'm no longer in the passenger seat about the situation or the market or the industry or nothing. I'm back in the driver's seat. So I had a lot of my blind spots was that I thought that a lot of other people were responsible for my success. A lot of other people, like, you know, my parents, my environment, the government, everybody was responsible, but not me. Look what you guys did to me. Like how much I suffered. No, I got back in the driver's seat. So that was a big blind spot for me that I'm like, oh no, there's other people. Nobody's going to come and save us, right? That was one big lesson for me. I am the only one that's going to make a difference for me, right? So that was a big one. And, you know, through the failure, you know, just I learned that it was a lot stronger than I really thought I was, right? I made a video about this today. Whatever you think is going to destroy you is a lie. You know, a lot of the times we get these things, I'm like, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm not going to make it through this debt. I'm not going to make it through these problems. I'm not going to make it through the situation. I'm not going to make it through this transaction. I'm not going to make it through this market. It's a lie. We're all here, right?
Yeah.
It's so, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm sorry. Where I want to loop it back to what you asked me. So blind spots that I had is that, yeah, I had a trying mindset, a hopefully mindset. That's another word that's like chalk on the board right now. Hopefully I do it. What do you mean, hopefully?
Hopefully the market changes.
Yeah, that's not
hopefully I get somebody to come to the open house.
Yeah, that's not a strategy.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully is not a strategy. Trying is not a strategy. So those things, and I also had a lot of limiting beliefs around. I was very I was not confident, man. I was not confident in me. I didn't believe in me. I didn't think that my words mattered. It was a lot of self-worth issues that I had as a blind spot. I didn't think I was good enough to do a lot of things in my life. I didn't think I was good enough to be on a stage on a camera. I didn't think of none of that stuff. This being on a camera right now or being on stages, it was completely impossible for me at one point in my life. I never thought I could do it. That's how much I was in my head.
Wow.
I was wrapped around like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're not smart enough, good enough. I hated the sound of my voice.
Same here, bro.
Right?
Oh man,
like,
I think we all could relate to that, right?
Oh, bro. Yeah.
That was me in the beginning. When I started this podcast, I wouldn't even want to listen to the podcast.
Yep.
Because I would just hear my voice. I'm like, ah.
Yeah. It's normal, right?
Yeah.
So that's another big life lesson. In order to be great at something, you have to be willing to be bad at it.
You have to suck at it.
Yeah, you have
first.
to suck at it for a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's the nature of reality, right? In this world, like, we're gonna suck at a lot of different things. But what I think is, like, if you have a desire, like, I don't think everybody should be a speaker if they don't want to be a speaker. But from my heart, it did tell me, like, you have to develop your speaking skills.
Right.
And it was such a huge fear. I mean, I think I read the study that somebody, you know, on a book that I read. The biggest fear in life is speaking on
Public speaking.
Yep. Right? And people would rather die than speak in front of a camera or in front of a stage.
Yeah.
So public speaking is a huge fear. That's how much it was for me in my life.
Yeah.
But I listened to that little inner voice that said, no, you got to do that. You got to do that. You got to do that.
Yeah.
So because I listened to that, I started to develop myself, going to Tony Robbins seminars, and I did a ton of different things.
I love that.
But it was, I listened to it.
Yeah.
I could have not, bro. If I had not, I would have still, right now, if I had not listened to that inner voice, I would still be a successful real estate agent, because I was crushing it. I would still be a successful real estate agent, a producer, and I would be making a lot of money. But the world wouldn't be able to experience my magic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, and it's not, and what I've got now, it's like, it's not even about me. I got to get out of my own way so I could be making a difference for other people. A contribution.
100%.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's our life about?
Yeah. That's huge, brother, because it's like we get on our own way the majority of our times, man. It happened with me. Like, I remember when in school, when it was time to do a presentation in front of the class, dude, I'll freaking miss. I'll ditch that day. Or I'll pretend that I'm sick or something so I wouldn't even show up.
Mm-hmm.
But it was same thing, man. It was that voice that I'm like, man, I got to share my story. I want to, something about public speaking. It just fired me up because I sucked at it. That I'm like, dude, this only means that I'm gonna get good if I continue putting in the work. Because I
Exactly.
suck right now, but if I continue putting in the work, I'm only gonna improve.
Exactly.
There's only improvement from here. So nothing changes unless you change the way that you look at
Yeah.
things, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
changing the
Yeah.
way that you look
Huge.
at things, and then you start buying into the conversations
Yes.
and taking that action, right? Getting on that driver's seat instead of
Yes.
being in the passenger seat.
Yep.
That's huge, right? Taking control of that wheel.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
The other day, we were doing a training on Monday, and we were touching on the 4 levels of learning: the unconscious incompetence, the unconscious competence, right? You don't know what you don't. You
Yeah.
don't know what you don't know. Then you know that you don't know,
Yeah.
and then that conscious competence level, right? And that's the 3rd level. That's the level where you have to do. You have while you're doing it, you're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Like when you learn how to drive, you're looking at your left mirror, right mirror, you're looking at the middle one, you're putting the signal. Before you know it, you're doing that unconsciously that you
Unconscious.
get to your house and you're like, shoot, I'm already at home. How
Yeah.
did I get here?
How did I get there?
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's doing the work, right?
Yep.
Is getting in that 3rd level of that conscious competence level and doing it until you have mastered it.
Yep.
And it's that daily work, right? You're gonna have failures, you're gonna have setbacks throughout the process. But when you get out of your own way, man, you could be a bigger blessing and a bigger contribution to other people. So let's touch on that, Leo, because you went from a successful realtor, right? Killing it in real estate. You became a successful investor, but then you started transitioning into a leadership role, right?
Right.
Adding value to other people, taking somebody that maybe doesn't see that life for themselves yet, and you're being that possibility for them. How did that conspire? How did that transcribe into
Yep.
your new role in your life?
Yeah. Great question. It was my mentor actually passed away. That was the catalyst of me actually doing it, because I had the inner voice. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. I saw my mentor last day, and I was the first one and the last one out, and we were neck to neck like almost every day. But this one day he went to the hospital because he had a bad ear infection and he was kind of losing his balance. The last time I saw him, he went to the hospital. The doctors gave him some medication, destroyed his liver, and he was gone, like that. And that was the year that I had made over $1 million. I had flipped personally like 20, 25 homes for me. I had the Panamera. I had all these trophies, like, it was after he passed away, and then we had an award ceremony like 2 weeks later. So it was like super, like it was very difficult for us to like hang out. It was like sad, right? We were getting all these trophies and stuff, but I remember sitting in my car, man, by myself, and looking at the trophies and the money and everything, and I got the cars, everything I wanted again. And I asked the three words that changed my life. Is this it? Is this it? Is this what life's all about? Making money, and then one day just dying. And I started to think about, in that moment, I was 25 years old, I started thinking about legacy. I started thinking about, what is Leo Robles going to be here to do? What is going to be his contribution? And I started thinking about, like, right now, if I would have died, I sold a lot of houses, and I had this nice car. People would forget about me like in a day. And I was like, man, that's not a big enough contribution to society. And my heart is telling me I got more to give. So that was like the propeller. When my mentor passed away, I was like, you know what? I'm going to step into leadership. I said, what do I want my life to be about? And I thought about the difference that Harold made for me. It's like, what if I could make a difference for other people in the business like Harold did for me? What if I could make a difference for other realtors? That would be cool, because I can impact more people that way. I can sell more houses that way too, because there's only 24 hours in a day. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I stepped into that idea, and
So at that time, you were just a one man show.
Exactly. And just, I had an assistant.
Okay.
I had a transaction coordinator. I had somebody that I had built my team around me, and I even had somebody just picked up inbound calls. So basically one man band. I mean, I had a couple of cousins that had joined me during the business, but they weren't really like fully committed to the business, right? And I started kind of testing it out, like, okay, like this is maybe the pathway, but I wanted to be a bigger contribution. So that led me to seek different brokerages, and I found Keller Williams through a good friend that reached out to me and said, hey, you should come to Family Reunion, check this out. So I really, I got in tune with the environment, the collaboration, and the structure that they had. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I can learn this, and I can teach other people. I can use the system to empower other realtors. And I started learning the lessons of becoming a leader now too, right? Because it's one thing to be an individual producer, like you're personally responsible for yourself, and you're making money for yourself, and you're keeping your mindset in check. But how do you actually gift that to someone else, right? So I started to learn because and this is the thing as if you're stepping into leadership, you got to think about this. Not everybody sees the world the way you see it.
Right.
Not everybody sees the way the world sees it. I had a mistake in my thinking, a blind spot as a leader, that everybody thought the way I did. Everybody was self-motivated. Everybody wanted it as bad as I wanted to. Everybody was going to get there early. Everybody was going to get stay at the long hours. Everybody was going to those things didn't. So I started to notice. I'm like, whoa, I can't just hire everybody. Because I did. I brought in like a team of 20 people, and I started like coaching and doing all this stuff. And it was fun, and it was good, and I made a difference for a lot of people. But I started to see the differences right away. Right. I started to see the limits in my leadership, and where I had blind spots, and where I needed to develop myself. So it was a great experience. And I started to see, wow, I need to develop myself. Like this leadership thing is not just like, oh, I'm going to be a leader. And it's not even leadership. It's not a title. It's a way of being, right? It's you become that version of. It took me many years to develop myself like that. But I just thought I was like, oh no, once you get this little title, like everybody's just gonna respect you and honor you and give you high fives. And no, you're gonna have to like do the work. Now I basically had to start over as a newbie, as a leader. Yeah. Going from a realtor to now becoming a leader, a brand newbie. Like I had 6 months of open houses, so 6 months of back
to a rookie,
back of the rookie in leadership. Yeah. So I had to develop myself there and learn how I can gift that to people and.
So what are some lessons there, Leo? Because I know like you touched on something huge, and John C. Maxwell touches on this, and he's always talking about the leader's not just a title. Like in the beginning, people follow you because they have to.
Yeah, they have to.
Right,
yeah.
Like they're joining the real estate, your real estate company. They're following you because they have to. You're the main person in charge. But how do you get that person to follow you because they want to, because they believe in the vision, because they believe in the journey? That's the 5 level of leadership, right? So how do you get them from level 1 to level 5?
Right. Great question. Great question.
I'm touching on leadership because I know you have a successful freaking team, and I'm trying to learn myself too.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I'm raising my layers of leadership too, my man.
We got to do it, bro. We got to do it, man. We got to do it, brother. And basically, I mean, I just started off, again, right, like figuring it out, right? And I started reading a lot of I love John Maxwell. I actually just ordered his most recent book, the 16... What is it? 16 Laws of Communication or
something? But I know,
I just started.
That guy has so many books, man. I think that's his 70+ book right there, something like that.
He's masterful, man.
Yes.
So I started reading his book, but I started picking up his books. I started to the seminar Landmark that actually helped me a lot with my leadership as well, because again, getting myself out of the way. But it's a process, man. It's not an easy process, right? Again, right, understanding that not everybody thinks like you, and also now, it's about finding the right talent too, right? Finding the right individual that also wants it, right? And that's what I started to be more intentional. Like, who do I want to be in business with? Who are the individuals? Like, what are their values that I'm looking for? And I started to look at their values, their mindset. I valued that over their past performance, right? So I started seeing, okay, values, mindset. Like that's what I started looking at. That was like the ingredients that I wanted to partner with, not necessarily like, oh, I got, this.
This guy has 100 listings or sold 100 houses this past year, but his mindset's probably not there.
Right. Which it may happen. I mean, I have many people that I'm partnered with that have both, right? They have the mindset and they have the success. A lot of them do. But not everybody does, right? So it's just identifying like those values, the mindset, and again, starting over at zero, right? Like you were going to attract people, and you need to really support them, and I think that when you find somebody that's really talented, you got to go all in on that talent, right? And help that talent to nurture. And help that person to get on fire, because that person gets everybody else on fire. So that's something I've learned throughout my leadership journey for the last 6, 7, 8 years, whatever that is now. It's when you find talent, you want to focus on them, harness their talent, be a support system, and show them how you see them, right? Because that's what leaders do a really good job. Like those are the people that listen to me bigger than I am. So I've surrounded myself with people that listen to me way bigger than I listen to myself, right? And that happened to me very early on too, like my first mentor and everything. So you have to have people that are committed listeners to you in your life as that leader, right? And then they're going to start to show you your blind spots, and you're going to start to model and emulate them. And you need to lead by example, right? That's a big one, right? I think it's very simply said, but not easily done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you lead by example every single day? Will become the embodiment of what it is that you want other people to be, right? How you handle setbacks, how you handle challenges, how you handle problems. The people you lead are looking at you at every single moment.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do is now seen. So every experience, when you handle these setbacks and these problems, the way you handle it, that's going to be the way your people are going to handle it.
Yeah.
So it's like it magnifies who you are. So you need to be extremely intentional about focusing on developing yourself, becoming that version of yourself that you want others to be, and then not place the responsibility again. As a leader, we are fully responsible for everybody's performance, not the other way around. We are responsible, right? I am responsible. You're responsible. We got to be responsible. It's challenging. It's very challenging, right? Like, how am I responsible for that person? That person doesn't show up. Well, there's a way for you to develop yourself. Like, how can you communicate more effectively? How can you make the process more clear, right? And then having systems and processes where people can, like, kind of becoming the version of like what we wanted early on in the business, right? When we started, right? Like you got, here, go figure it out kind of deal. Same thing. So what I've done is like try to create a system where people can just plug into, where they can again become successful and remove all those barriers, right, of entry, and support them. But it's a process. It is a process. It's not like a one answer type of
Right.
situation, and you learn as you go.
And like you said, it's different with every person, right?
Every person is different. Every person is different. I mean, it's very rewarding, man. I really love it. Like I'm really passionate about leadership, passionate about impact, and it's the best way to keep you growing too, because you have to continue to elevate yourself constantly. You have to continue to raise the lid, because you better believe that the people that are following you, they're chasing you down.
Yeah.
So you got to continue to raise the lid, raise the lid, raise the lid,
100%.
raise the lid, raise the lid, raise the lid. Show them what's possible. Show them what's possible.
Yeah,
And
because the moment that starts becoming equal, like have you experienced that?
yeah, 100%. Like
What has happened there?
I mean the normal in the beginning, I had a lot of people that came to me that would leave my company right away. They would leave my company, and I would like, oh, that person. I would blame them, like, oh, that person wasn't good enough, or blah blah blah, or they were, they didn't have the commitment, blah blah. I wasn't taking responsibility for my leadership, right? So I would blame the person automatically. So I was something I developed myself over time, and I started like, okay, well, how can I be responsible for it? And I started to, again, right? It's challenging, but I started taking responsibility for it, and I'm kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this, but it's the question you asked me was. I want to make sure I deliver on that.
Yeah, so I asked you like the people that are getting to the same level as you, right? Like how?
Yeah. So how do you keep? So you got to continue to raise the lid and make sure, like, if you are not developing yourself and just sitting on your title, like, hey, I'm the head honcho, and I'm not demonstrating what it takes, and I'm not developing or growing myself, people are going to leave your company. Like they're going to leave right away, right? People left me because they weren't doing well, or they left me because they were doing really well. So I started to see, I'm like, wait, I teach them and I help them and they crush it, but they're still leaving, or they don't do that well and they still leave. So I'm like, this is like there has to be like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
What am I missing?
What's the missing link?
So the missing link for me was that I didn't have a platform where I could get out of my own way, even in leadership. Like in leadership, what I found out now is that you're more of a space. You kind of have to get out of your own way and get out of their way, and that way you can allow them to grow. And it's like I'm excited when people, I want them to outgrow me, right? And before it was like no, like, you know, the way I was leading, it was like, no, well, I'm continuing to raise the lid, but I'm kind of, it's a race. But like now it's like, no, I'm continuing to develop myself, but only to develop myself so I can keep getting myself out of the way, so I can continue to help you and pour into you. So you become like a space for your people. And again, you got to listen to them bigger. You got to help them to point out their blind spots, just like my mentors do. My mentors point out my blind spots, and they show me where I could develop myself, and they show me by the way that they're being, by the way they do things, right? So you have to have people that the leaders that I'm learning from. I mean, they're leading organizations, you know, with groups of people with 20, 30, 40,000 people.
Wow.
So that's who I'm listening to. That's who I am modeling. That's who I am emulating. So as I model and emulate them, it shows everyone else that's coming alongside, okay, this is the way that we got to do things too. This is the way we got to do things. People don't do what we say. People do what we do. Right? You know that. I mean, it's just people do what you do. It's kind of like our parents, when they would tell us, oh, don't do that. And then you tell your parents, like, dude, I just saw you
doing it.
Yeah, you told me not to drink. I'm like, you drinking every weekend.
Yeah,
like, you know, as a kid, I remember that. I was like, tell me not to drink, and you're drinking every weekend. Like, what's going on? So we got to demonstrate constantly. So hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere in that domain. Yeah.
So in your experience, right, Leo, when it comes to leadership, how have you, like with artificial intelligence, with this new, all this technology now, how have you been able to use that in your leadership skills, and also to leverage and provide a better customer service for your clients and your partners?
Right. Great question. I mean, AI has been, it's a huge topic right now. You know, some people are like, oh, it's really bad. Some people think people love it.
Are you shying away from it, or you're like?
Exactly, right? I mean, look, the fact is that it's here.
Yeah.
That's a fact, right? It's here.
It's not going anywhere.
So I think our job as professionals and as leaders is that we have to learn how we can use that and implement it into our businesses. What I've done, I mean, November 30th, as soon as, you know, ChatGPT came out, I started using it. I was like, wait, because, you know, I'm an idea generator. I mean, I think you're kind of like in the right. You generate a bunch of ideas, but sometimes executing the actual projects and all that, it takes time.
Right.
So when I started using like ChatGPT, for example, I started to see, I'm like, wait, I have an idea. I put it in here. Boom. It gives me the whole structure. It gives me an outline. I was like, wow, this is huge. Right. And I send out newsletters. I send out emails. I send out a bunch of stuff to everyone in my organization to keep them up to date with everything. So I've done trainings, right? And I don't think I'm not an expert. I mean, I think a lot of people are. I mean, but I am just using it to enhance like my writing. I'm using it to enhance like my newsletters. Using it to enhance my emails. I'm using it to enhance like I'm teaching my agents how to enhance like their descriptions on their listings, on their websites, on their even my bio. I revamped my bio like recently. I said, make this better.
Yeah.
And it revamped my bio, and it made it short and concise. I'm like, oh, this is a lot better. And, you know, my grammar is not perfect. So sometimes like, hey, check my grammar, and check my grammar. So I put in my phrase, and boom, it hooks it up, and it makes it look nice and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool. So I'm leveraging it for a lot of that, right? When I'm pushing, because I'm posting right now like 2 pieces of content daily. That was something that my coach challenged me on back in November too.
Okay.
He challenged me to do 2 pieces of content a day. He was
social media.
Yeah, my social media, right? So it's when I stumbled upon ChatGPT, I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's gonna help me to create more content, right? So I can tell it like, I want, you know, give me 50 different ideas to create content, 50 video ideas, and it'll give you exact. Create an ebook for my buyers. Create an ebook for my seller. So you can also your SOPs, right? System operating process, like all your processes, you can systemize everything. So especially for leadership, right? Or you're running a team, you can now have like an actual curriculum. What does your first 90 days look like? You can leverage AI to help you to create a first 90-day plan. You can have AI write scripts for you, right? For buyers, for sellers, for investors. Like you can have different scripts. and load it up all in a Google Drive, right? That's what I've done recently. Like that's a project that
That's what you're sharing with your agents.
right, my director of operations and we've been working on it, like masterminding, creating those things. That way, it's like it's there, right? All of it is there for them, and then we do trainings around it too. And a lot of my agents are now using it, and I think a lot of people in the industry are now using it, and they see how powerful it is. I think it was shut down for like a day, and everybody was like, "What the heck is going? Yeah, what's going on?" Like it's shut down, right? And now we have Bing, coming out with an AI, and there's just so many things. So I just think that we shouldn't be afraid of artificial intelligence. We should embrace it, use it responsibly. I'm not in a position where I am actually, making an impact and saying like, hey, this is the way it should be done, because I'm not versed enough. So I think that also we should be concerned with what we are responsible for, right? Like I'm not responsible for that. I don't know how, but I know how I can use it in my business.
Right.
How I can use it to help other people
in a positive way.
Yeah. But and that's why I don't really get into like politics or any of that stuff, because I'm like, I'm not the one that's running for office.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that's like making a difference there. So that's not my lane.
Yeah.
I stay in my lane. I think that's another big thing. We got to stay in our own lane and allow the people that are in their lanes, or if you want to be in that lane and you want to be very opinionated about it, get in that lane and become masterful at it. But I think we waste too much time about, giving opinions about things that we have no control over a lot of the times. It's just like, well, we got to just, again, how can I use this? This is a tool. How can I? It was the same thing. I mean, everybody was so upset when the internet came out and calculators came out, and I was like, we're going to be so dependent on it. MapQuest and then you got navigations and we're so dependent on technology. So it's the progression is that people resist it, but then they use it, right? So I would just say, don't resist it. Figure out how you can use it for your business and implement it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're using it. We're implementing it in our business and our podcast, and everything that we use for our Go Heavy event was ChatGPT.
Yeah,
like it was like the follow-ups, the emails, the sequence, everything. Because again, if you could take that off your plate, and the fact of the matter is that an AI is doing it actually better than you are, then why even reinvent the wheel? Like, just go with it. Make it better, and then just put your flow into it.
Exactly.
So, because at the end of the day, you still have to put your part into it. The human eyes.
Correct.
Because again, you have to put your part in it as well. So
exactly. You use it with your own essence, right? Like, okay, this is my thing. You just it helps you to elaborate it, expand it, refine it. So yes, your input is extremely valuable still. You have to know how to give it the correct prompts too.
Yes.
Right? So it's...
And now it's based on the quality of the questions that you ask.
Hasn't it always been like that though, right?
In life? On the quality of questions that you're asking.
Yeah, if you're asking quality questions in life, you're going to get quality answers.
Right?
Same thing with AI.
Yeah.
The more that I learn about AI, the more I learn about our world too, right? This is something interesting that's came up for me recently. I was like, wait a minute. What is AI? AI is a language model. It has all language integrated into the platform. So what is the world? It's language. The world is language. So the more that we develop our language, the more language that we know, the more that we could do. So I just started seeing a correlation to that. I was like, wow.
Absolutely.
Our words really create our world. Like,
and we've been using it. I watched the video of Billie Jean this morning as I was working out. And he's like, Microsoft Word, you've been using AI. Like, when you misspell a word, it tells you right away you misspelled it.
Yeah.
It's telling you instantly, and that's been happening for years already.
Yeah, nobody said anything
about it.
Nobody said
anything. Nobody complained about it.
Yes,
This is just on steroids now. now it gives you a whole summary of everything that you want to know. So it's like utilize it to the fullest, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Even books, man. That's been one of the ways that I've used it. I've used it to I got a new book. Let me see if I want to read that book. Give me the top 10 points of this book.
Ooh,
I
like that.
I love,
I'm gonna start using that one.
Give me the top 10 points. Right, you get a new book, get the top 10 points, and you can instantly, if somebody's talking about a book, bro. The other day I walked into like a yoga studio, and this gal had it was called the Radiance Sutras. Never read the book. But I picked up my phone. I went on ChatGPT, give me the top 10 points. And literally, while we were registering, I read the top 10 points. I knew what the book was about. And I just started dialoguing. I'm like, oh, what do you think about the book? I'm like, oh, like, I knew how I can have a conversation about it on the spot.
On the spot.
On the spot, without reading the book. It doesn't take away, obviously, from the book, but I can actually get, like, I can get a reader's, like, I can fine tune it like that. You can even do a book summary. You can do that about everything. I mean, but that's how I like to use it for book summaries.
Love it.
Right? So you can read 10 books in a day if you want to, like that.
That's genius. I love that.
10 books in one day.
Yeah.
Or you can just create a video around that. Hey, here are the top 10 points of, this X book, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
Taking notes right now.
Yep.
Let's go.
By the way, my favorite book right now, because I'm sharing a lot. I've read 192 books now.
Wow.
And this is just my Audible library, not like my hard copy books. The Everyday Hero Manifesto with Robin Sharma.
Okay.
That
the Everyday Hero.
Yeah, the Everyday Hero Manifesto. That's one of my.
Have you read his book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari?
I have.
Yeah. I love that book.
I love that book too. The 5 a.m. Club as well.
The 5 a.m. Club, yeah.
This one though, man, I really, really love the book. It has.
What is it again?
The Everyday Hero Manifesto. It has really powerful language in the book. Again, right, going back to language, really powerful language, leadership, and he coaches billionaires and multimillionaires. That's the one right there. I read it 3 times already, and I actually bought the hard copy book because I wanted to go through it and digest it. Like I'm committed to mastering all of the teachings in that book. So powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful in one book.
That guy's powerful, man. I've been listening to him. I remember one of my first coaches, Damiano. Mm-hmm. He introduced me to Robin Sharma.
Yep.
And I was like, I started reading the
really good stuff.
Ferrari, really, really good book.
Yep.
Well, awesome, Leo. One last question, man, and this is on giving back because I know your time is valuable. I've seen on your social media, man, and something powerful that I've seen you do is that you go to other countries and you guys are building houses. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So yeah, contribution is a huge part, right? In addition to obviously impact our real estate community. I started doing something similar to that even since 2012. I started putting backpacks together and contributing to like the local school where we would sell real estate. So we would pack up like 100 backpacks like on a monthly basis and go give them like the lunch, because we figured out that the only lunch that the kids were having were when they went to school, basically. So we started packing like these backpacks full of like food and a bunch of stuff. So I've always had an inclination to give back, and Tony Robbins has been a huge mentor for me. He always says the secret to living is giving, right? So that led to me partnering up with my friend Gabriel Bolanos, Francisco Jara, Jeremiah Forrest. These 3 gentlemen have been doing a lot of home builds in other countries. They started this nonprofit called Prosperity Homes. So I got really involved with them, started going to build out homes, and it's such a powerful thing, right? We talk about selling a house, but imagine building a house for a family that literally has no roof, right? Which is something that's extremely humbling. The fact that you have a roof, that you have water, that you have a toilet, the fact that you have a refrigerator with food, we take so many of those things for granted, right? 100%. So we've gone out there and we take a family that, a family of like 4, 5, 6 sometimes, and they're literally sleeping on dirt floors with cardboard, with the plastic little tent. And in 3 days, we go in and we build a house for them. And they have a roof, they have beds, and that's the first time they've ever even slept on a bed. I mean, it's life changing. 3 days, what that does. So for me, it's something I'm extremely passionate about. I want to continue to do that. I want to do that even in other parts of the world. And what we're doing is also we're now wanting to bring education to them as well, so we can kind of break the cycle, right? Because it's not just it's not just the house. Okay, great. Now that gives them a fair shot, but how can we break the chain, that cycle of like poverty? Because it's a mindset. It's the community. So we're really focusing on that. And then my other thank you, man. My other friend Louis Chavez, he has a nonprofit as well called the what is not the Louis Foundation. I was going to call it the Chilo Foundation. The Chilo Foundation, feeds women and children in Skid Row here in LA. So, I get involved with everybody's nonprofit. I eventually may create a nonprofit, but right now I'm supporting everybody that's around me, and I'm just inclined to do that. It's such a rewarding thing, right? I think that our life should be more than just like, okay, I'm gonna make a bunch of money, right? What am I actually doing? It doesn't have to be that. I would say as advice, get connected to something that you're passionate about, because I think if we all do that, then the world is completely different overnight. Absolutely. Right? If we just start caring a little bit about our cause, like something that yearns in your heart, like, hey, maybe I can impact this community or that community.
That little ripple effect is gonna those families. You guys are changing their lives tremendously. That they're never gonna forget that.
Yeah, bro.
They'll never forget that, because it's something that'll stay with you.
And they changed my life as much as we changed theirs, bro. Every time. Like 100%. I come back like just so grateful, and they changed my life, man. Like, just how somebody could be so happy with what they have. It's
how powerful that is. The moment that you give, you get it right back. Because you're getting it right back. Look at how fulfilling you leave from that place. You get that blessing right back because you're contributing to someone else.
Exactly.
That's powerful, brother. That's some good stuff.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you for being a contribution. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for, allowing me to share. And thank you for I'm excited to see you on more stages and creating more events, and good kudos to you for stepping away from the limiting beliefs, like, right, I can't do this, and look at you did your event. Powerful stuff, man, and I'm excited for the next Go Heavy event.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be even better, man. We're in the trenches right now, putting in work. So any last words to our audience?
Last words.
And where can they reach you at if they want to get into the real estate space? And
my Instagram, I am Leo Robles. I'm on TikTok too, and on Facebook. I'm on all the different platforms. You can find me at I am Leo Robles. Feel free to reach out anytime. Last words is just go all in on you right now. Go all in on you. Develop yourself. It's the highest ROI that you will receive, and you will never lose.
I love it. You heard it best. You owe you, baby. You owe you.
Let's go.
Go out there and make it happen, guys. Well, there you have it. Another powerful episode on Unleash Your Power. If this episode doesn't help you unleash your power, I don't know what is, guys. Re-listen to this episode over and over. Make sure that you guys share it. Turn on the notification button. And tune into the next one, guys. Take care. Love you guys.